IGCSE Physics Paper Code 0625 Paper 1 Variant 1 October-November 2020. Question 1. The diagram shows a pendulum. The pendulum bob swings repeatedly between point M and N. A student starts a stopwatch when the bob reaches point M. He counts each time the bob changes direction and stops the watch on the 10th change in direction. The watch shows a time of 12 seconds. What is the period of the pendulum? Time period or period of pendulum means time taken to complete one cycle. Now here the bob starts from M. It moves towards N. And when it reaches at point N, it rebounds and then it comes back again at point M. And it is called one complete cycle. And in this one complete cycle, it changes its direction for two times. One time when it is moving from M to N and second time when it is moving from N to M. And here it is given this 12 second is for 10 changes in direction. And in one cycle, how many times direction is changing? For two times. So in other words, we can say that for 5 complete cycles, the time taken is 12 seconds. So for 5 cycles, time taken is 12 seconds. Now what is time period? What is period of the pendulum? It is the time taken by one cycle. So time period will be equal to this 12 second divided by 5 cycles, we will get 2.4 seconds. So the time period or period of the pendulum is 2.4 second. 2.4 second is given in option C. So correct option will be option C. Question number 2. The speed time graph represents a journey. How does the graph shows that the distance traveled in section X of the journey is greater than the distance traveled in section Y? Here we have plotted a graph in between time and speed. And when we plot a graph in between time and speed, the area under the curve represents the distance covered. Now if the area under the curve is more, then the distance covered will be more, and if the area under the curve is less, then the distance will be less. From this graph it is clear that area under the curve for section X is more as compared to area under the curve in section Y. So the distance covered in section X will be more as compared to distance covered in section Y. Now we check the option. Option A. The area below section X of the graph is greater than the area below the section Y. Yes, it is the correct reason. When the area under the curve is more, the distance traveled, distance covered will be more. So here our correct option will be option A. Question number 3. A boy throws a ball vertically upward with a speed v. Which row describes the speed and the acceleration of the ball at point X on the way upwards? When the boy throws the ball in the upper direction, when it is moving in the upper direction, its speed is decreasing, and at the highest point its speed will be 0. So when the ball is moving in the upper direction, its speed will be decreasing. Okay, first we check options here. Here we have two columns. In the first column we have speed. In the second column we have acceleration. In the column of speed, in A and B it is given decreasing. In C and D it is given increasing. It is discussed here when it is moving in the upward direction its speed is decreasing. So our possible option will be A and B. Now what about the acceleration? Here this ball has some weight, and weight is a force with which it attracts everybody towards its center. So weight is always acting vertically in the downward direction, and weight is a force. And what about the acceleration? Acceleration is always in the direction of resultant force. Now here weight or the resultant force is acting in the downward direction, so definitely acceleration will also be acting in the downward direction. So here acceleration is moving towards the downward direction. So here our correct option will be option B. speed is decreasing when it is moving in the upward direction and acceleration is in the downward direction because the resultant force, the weight of the ball, is in downward direction. So here correct option will be option B. Question number 4. A student compares the weight of different objects. Which apparatus does he use? Option A, balance. A balance is used to measure mass, to calculate mass. But we can also use balance to compare the weight of different objects in terms of mass. Okay, first we check other options also, then we will decide whether A is correct or not. In option B, it is given measuring cylinder. Measuring cylinder is used to find out volume of a liquid. So B is not the possible option. C, stopwatch. Stopwatch is used to find out the time. Option D, thermometer. Thermometer is used to measure temperature. So B, C and D are not the possible option. The only possible option is A, balance. So correct option will be option A. Question number 5. Which quantity is weight an example of? What is weight? Weight is a force with which Earth attracts everybody towards its center. Now we check the option. Option A, acceleration. B, force. C, mass. D, pressure. It is discussed weight is a force with which Earth attracts everybody towards its center. So definitely here the correct option will be option B, force. Question number 6. A metal ball is attached to a cork and is lowered into a measuring cylinder, pulling the cork into the water as shown. The mass of the cork is 4.8 gram. What is the density of the cork? Density is given as mass over volume. So here if we have to find our density of the cork, we should have mass of the cork and volume of the cork. Now here mass of the cork is given but volume of the cork is not given. So first we have to find out volume of the cork. Here it is shown that volume of the liquid, volume of water is 48 centimeter cube. Now here we dip the ball in water and the volume become 56 centimeter cube. So whatever be the difference here, it will be the volume of the ball. And this difference is 8 centimeter cube. So here we can say volume of the ball is 8 centimeter cube. Now here we dip both ball and cork and the new volume is 80 centimeter cube. Now the initial volume without ball and cork is 48 and with ball and cork the volume is 80 and here the difference is 32 centimeter cube. So here we can say 32 centimeter cube is volume of both cork and ball. And here we have calculated the volume of the ball, it is 8 centimeter cube. So definitely the volume of the cork will be 32 minus 8, it will be 24 centimeter cube. Now we have both mass and volume of the cork. Mass is 4.8 gram and volume of the cork is 24 centimeter cube. So density will be equal to 4.8 over 24. It will be 0.2 gram per centimeter cube. Now 0.2 gram per centimeter cube is given in option B. So correct option will be option B. Question number 7. A uniform plank rests on a pivot at its center. Two children P and Q sit on the plank in the position shown. The mass of the child P is 25 kg. The plank is balanced. What is the mass of child Q? Here it is given the plank is balanced. Plank is balanced means clockwise moment is equal to anti-clockwise moment. Now clockwise moment is moment because of child Q and anti-clockwise moment is because of child P. And what is moment? Moment is product of force and moment arm. Here force is weight of this child Q and moment arm is the distance from this point to pivot, that is 1.5 meter. So here clockwise moment will be equal to weight of the child multiplied by distance 1.5 meter. and anti-clockwise moment will be equal to weight of this child E multiplied by this distance 1.2 meter. Now here mass of child P is given 25 kilogram. So weight of child P will be equal to 25 multiplied by 10 and moment arm is 1.2 meters. And by solving this one, we will get the mass of this child Q that is equal to 20 kilogram. Now 20 kilogram is given in option A. So correct option will be option A. Question number 8. An object is in equilibrium on the earth. Which statement is correct? What is meant by equilibrium? Equilibrium means sum of all the forces acting on an object is zero. Now we check the options. Option A. All the forces acting on the object are in the same direction. B. All the forces acting on the object have the same value. Option C. The object is weightless. Option D. The resultant force acting on the object is zero. Here correct option is option D. It is basic definition of equilibrium that resultant force acting on an object is zero, or in other words we can say sum of all the forces acting on an object is zero. So here correct option will be option D. Question number 9. A man jumps from a stationary balloon. After falling several hundred meters, he opens his parachute. At which position is his kinetic energy greatest? When he starts falling, in beginning in the start, its velocity is zero. And when his velocity is zero, his kinetic energy will also be zero because kinetic energy is given as half mv square. So when v or velocity is zero, kinetic energy will be zero. When he is moving in the downward direction, its velocity is increasing. Since his velocity is increasing, so we can say his kinetic energy is also increasing. Now when the parachute opens, the downward force and the upward force becomes equal. And when becomes equal, the resultant force is zero. And when the resultant force is zero, its acceleration is zero and its velocity becomes constant. So his kinetic energy will not increase anymore. So his maximum kinetic energy will be at the point just before he opens the parachute. Now we check the options. Option A, just after he jumps from the balloon. Option B, just before he opens his parachute. C, just after his parachute opens. D, just before he lands. Here definitely our correct option is option B, just before he opens his parachute. So correct option will be option B. Question number 10. The arrows show an outline of the process in an oil-fired power station. Oil is burned, turns turbine, turns generator, and output transformer. What are the process for the transfer of energy between the turbine and the generator and between the generator and the output transformer? Here in the first column it is given turbine to generator. Here turbine rotates, turbine turns. Since turbine rotates, so definitely here we have mechanical energy. Now first we check the options. In option A it is given electrical working. In B mechanical working, C mechanical working, D transfer of thermal energy. Here we have mechanical working. So here our possible options are B and C. Now we check second column. In second column we have given generator to output transformer. From generator to output transformer we have electrical energy or electrical working. Now electrical working is given in option B. So our correct option will be option B. Turbine to generator we have mechanical working and generator to output transformer we have electrical working. So correct option will be option B. Question number 11. To calculate the power produced by a force, the size of the force must be known. What else needs to be known to calculate the power? PAR is defined as rate of work done. Rate of work done means work done divided by time. Now work done is given as product of force and displacement. So PAR will be equal to force into displacement divided by time. So in order to calculate PAR other than force, we should know displacement or distance, and also we should know the time taken. Now we check the options. Here we have two columns. In the first column, the distance that the force moves the object is given, and in the second column, the time for which the force acts on the object is given. Now in the option A, it is shown that both the distance and the time is needed. Here it is discussed that to calculate the path other than force, we should know the displacement or distance and time. Means both distance and time is needed. That is shown in option A. So correct option will be option A. Question number 12. A rectangular marble block has dimension 1 meter by 1 meter by 5 meter and weighs 125,000 Newton. The marble block is stored with the long side resting on the ground in diagram 1. What is the change in the pressure on the ground due to the block when the block is stored as in the diagram 2 rather than diagram 1? Here we have to find out the change in the pressure. To find out the change in the pressure, first we will calculate the pressure in diagram 1, then we will calculate the pressure in the diagram 2, then we will find out the difference of these two pressure. What is pressure? Pressure is given as force over area. Now in the diagram 1, force is given 125,000 Newton, and what is area? Here this length, this dimension is 5 meter, this dimension is 1 meter, so area will be 5 meter square. So pressure will be equal to 125,000 divided by 5, it will be 25,000 Pascal. Now in diagram 2, we have dimension 1 by 1 meter. So here area is 1 meter square and the force or the weight is same, it is 125,000 Newton. So pressure will be equal to 125,000 divided by 1, it will be 125,000 Pascal. Now what will be the difference? For difference, we have to subtract the pressure in diagram 1 from the pressure in diagram 2. When we will subtract this one, we will get 100,000 Pascal. So the difference in the pressure is 100,000 Pascal, and 100,000 Pascal is given in option B. So correct option will be option B. Question number 13. The diagram shows a mercury barometer which height is used as a measurement of atmospheric pressure. To find out the atmospheric pressure, we have to consider the height of the mercury from the surface of the mercury in the beaker to the height of the mercury in the barometer. Means here we have to consider the height from this point to this point. From this point to this point, it is shown in option C. So here our correct option will be option C. Question number 14. On a warm day, a driver checks the air pressure in a car tire. At night, the temperature drops and the air pressure in the tire decreases. There are no air leaks in the tire. There are no air leaks in the tire means number of molecules of the air remain same. They are not decreased. Now at the night, temperature decreases. With the decrease in temperature, velocity of the molecules, velocity of the air molecule also decreases. And when the velocity of the air molecule decreases, the probability of striking of the molecule with each other will also be decreased. And pressure of a gas is because of the collision of the molecule with each other. Since here collision of the molecule is decreased, that's why pressure will also be decreased. Now we check the options. In option A, the air molecule in the tire move more slowly. Yes, it is our possible option, but we also check other options. In B, it is given the air molecule in the tire stop moving. No, they cannot stop moving. There is some kinetic energy, and whenever there is kinetic energy, there will be velocity, there will be movement in the molecules. So molecules cannot stop. So option B is not the possible option. Option C, the volume of the air in the tire decreases. Since there is no leak in the tire, so there will be no decrease in volume of the air. Option D, the volume of the air in the tire increases. There is neither decrease in volume nor increase in volume. So C and D are not the possible option. The only possible option is option A. So here correct option will be option A. Question number 15. The diagram shows the more energetic water molecule escaping from the surface of the liquid water. What is the process called? It is basic definition of evaporation. So here we have evaporation. In option A, it is given Brownian motion. In B, it is given condensation. In C, evaporation. In D, conduction. Definitely our correct option is option C. It is evaporation. So correct option will be option C. Question number 16. When a bridge is built, a gap is left between each concrete slab. Why are these gaps left? Option A, concrete expands on warm days. Option B, concrete contracts on warm days. Option C, the gap expands on warm days. Option D, the gaps contract on cold days. Here correct option is option A, concrete expands on warm days. When we heat any object, it expands. So in the warm days, the concrete slab also expands. So we have to keep the gaps in between the concrete slab to allow to keep the margin of expansion of these concrete slabs. So here correct answer is option A, concrete expand on the warm days. Question number 17. The table shows the melting and boiling point of 4 different substances. Which substance become a liquid when placed in a beaker of boiling water? Here we have two columns. In the first column, melting point is given. In the second column, boiling point is given. Now what is boiling point of water? Boiling point of water is 100 degrees centigrade. And here it is given this substance is liquid at boiling point of water. Means it is liquid at a temperature of 100 degrees centigrade. So the boiling point of this liquid should be more than 100 degrees centigrade and its melting point should be less than 100 degrees centigrade. Now we check the options. In option B we are looking that melting point is 40 degrees centigrade, that is less than 100 degrees centigrade, that is less than boiling point of water, and also here boiling point is given 150 degrees centigrade, that is more than boiling point of water. So here our correct answer will be option B. Melting point will be 40 degrees centigrade and boiling point will be 150 degrees centigrade. Question number 18. The diagram shows 4 rods. Each rod is made of a different metal. Here we have 4 rods, one of brass, second of copper, third of silver and fourth of iron. Wax is used to attach the small metal balls at the end of P, Q, R and S. Each rod is the same size. They are heated uniformly by a Bunsen burner at point X. As the rod warms up, the wax melts and the ball falls off. Why does the ball on the silver rod fall first? Here it is given that on the silver rod the wax melt first. Means here in the silver rod the heat is absorbed more rapidly as compared to other rods. Or in other words we can say that silver rod is best conductor out of these 4 rods. Now we check the options. In option A it is given silver is the best conductor of heat. In B it is given silver is the worst conductor of heat. In C it is given silver is the best radiator of heat. In D it is given silver is worst radiator of heat. So here definitely our correct option is option A, silver is the best conductor of heat. So correct option will be option A. Question number 19. The diagram shows a pan of water being heated. After a short time, all the water in the pan begins to boil. What is the main process by which the thermal energy is transferred through the water? We have studied three modes of heat transfer: one conduction, second convection, third radiation. Conduction is a process that is taking place in solids, whereas in liquid and in gases, heat is transferred mainly because of convection. And radiation is a heat transfer method in vacuum. Now we check the option. Option A, conduction; B, convection; C, evaporation; D, radiation. Here it is given water. Water is a liquid, and in liquid the heat is transferred mainly because of convection. So our correct option will be option B, convection. Question number 20. Which row correctly describes light waves? Here we have two columns. In the first column it is given wave type. In the second column it is given direction of vibration. First thing, light waves or electromagnetic waves are transverse wave. Now transfer wave is given C and D. So possible options are C and D. Now what are transverse wave? In transverse wave, the direction of propagation of wave and the object that is producing that wave are perpendicular to each other. Now perpendicular to direction of wave travel is given in option D. So our correct option will be option D. Light waves are transfer wave. And what are transfer wave? In transfer wave, the direction of the vibration of the particle is perpendicular to the direction of the wave travel. So correct option will be option D. Question number 21. The diagram shows two pieces of wood resting in shallow water of constant depth. State parallel wavefront approach the pieces of wood as indicated. The gap between the pieces of wood is 2 cm wide. The wavefront is 3 cm apart. What is the appearance and the wavefronts after they pass through the gap? Option A, semicircular and 2 cm apart. Option B, semicircular and 3 cm apart. Option C, straight and 2 cm apart. Option D, straight and 3 cm apart. In topic of diffraction, we have studied that straight wavefront, after passing a narrow gap, they move in semicircular form. Now second thing, the distance in between two consecutive wavefronts before passing the gap will be equal as the distance in between two consecutive wavefronts. Means this distance will be same as this distance. Now here, after passing this gap, these wavefronts will be in semicircular form and the distance in between two consecutive wavefronts will be same as before passing this gap. Before passing the gap, the distance between two consecutive wavefronts is 3 cm. So here, after passing this gap, these wavefronts will be in semicircular form and the distance between the wavefront will be 3 cm. That is given in option B. That is given here semicircular and 3 cm apart. So correct option will be option B. Question number 22. A man sees a stone at the bottom of a pool of water. Which path could be taken by light from the stone to the man? Here we have four rays A, B, C and D and we have to find out which ray will reach the eyes of this man that is coming from this stone. First we check ray A. For ray A, this ray is coming from this stone through this path. This path, this direction is at right angle to this plane. A ray of light that is at right angle to a plane, when it enters in another medium, it is not deflected, it moves in a straight line. So this ray will not be deflected in direction of A, it will move in a straight line. So A is not the possible option. Now we check option B. In option B we are looking this ray is deflected and it is moving away from the normal. So it is our possible option. Why? Because when a ray enters from a denser medium to a lighter medium, it moves away from the normal. Here we are looking, this ray is moving away from the normal, so it is our possible option. In option C we are looking, this ray, it is moving in a straight line, it is not deflected. And we have studied that when a ray enters from a denser medium to a lighter medium, it is deflected away from the normal. And this ray is undeflected, so this one is also incorrect. The only ray that will be undeflected will be the ray that is at right angle to the plane. Okay, now we check option D. In option D we are looking, this ray is deflected towards the normal. It will not deflect towards the normal, it will deflect away to the normal. So D is also not the possible option. Only possible option is option B, where the ray is deflected away from the normal. So correct option will be option B. Question number 23, which statement about a thin converging lens is correct? Option A, all rays of light refracted by the lens pass through the principal focus. It is incorrect. Only the rays that are parallel to the principal axis will pass through the principal focus. So A is incorrect. B, all rays initially parallel to the principal axis of the lens are refracted through the principal focus. Yes, it is correct. All the rays that are parallel to the principal axis, after passing the lens, it will be deflected, it will pass through the principal focus. So B is correct option. Okay, we also check C and D. In C it is given the focal length of the lens is the distance between the image and the principal focus. In D it is given the focal length of the lens is the distance between the object and the image. Focal length is the distance from the center of the lens to principal focus. So both C and D are incorrect. The only correct option is option B. Question number 24. The diagram shows a beam of white light passing through a triangular prism. A spectrum is produced. Which row correctly shows a wave property involved in producing the colors at X and at Y? When a ray of light is passed through a prism, white light is dispersed into its 7 colors, and this phenomena is called dispersion. Now second thing, when it will be dispersed in 7 colors, these 7 colors are violet, indigo, blue, green, yellow, orange and red. The color that has higher frequency will be deflected more, and the color that has lesser frequency will be deflected less. Now out of these 7 colors, violet has maximum frequency and red has minimum frequency. So red will be deflected least and violet will be deflected most. So here this Y that is deflected most will be violet, and this X that is deflected least should be red. So here this X will be red, Y will be violet, and this phenomena is called dispersion. Now we check the options. In option B we are looking, this wave property is given dispersion. For X it is given red, for Y it is given violet. So here our correct option will be option B. Question number 25. The diagram shows the electromagnetic spectrum. Which types of wave are E, F and G? Here we have gamma rays, then we have a wave E, then ultraviolet, then F, infrared, microwave, and here we have a wave that is represented by alphabet G. And we have to find out what types of waves are E, F and G. In electromagnetic spectrum, we have studied these are gamma rays. After gamma rays, we have X rays. So here after gamma rays, we should have X rays. Now if we check the option for E, in C and D it is given X rays. So here our possible option will be C and D. Now what about F? F is in between ultraviolet and infrared. It is in between ultraviolet, it is ultraviolet, it is infrared. In between ultraviolet and infrared, we have visible spectrum, we have visible light. So in between ultraviolet and infrared, we should have visible light, that is given in option D. Now this G is radio wave, that is above microwaves. So our correct option will be option D. E is X-rays, F is visible light, and G is radio waves. Question number 26. A police car with its siren sounding is stationary in heavy traffic. A pedestrian notices that although the loudness of the sound produced does not change, the pitch varies. Which row describes the amplitude and the frequency of the sound? First thing, loudness depends on amplitude and pitch depends on frequency. Since here loudness of the sound does not change, so amplitude will not change, it will remain constant. And here pitch is changed, pitch varies, so frequency will be varied, frequency will be changed. Now if we check the option for amplitude, constant is given in A and B. So possible option will be A and B. For frequency in B it is given varying and in A it is given constant. It is discussed here, since pitch varies, so frequency will be varied. So here our correct option will be option B. Amplitude constant because of the fact that loudness does not change, and frequency varying because of the fact that pitch varies. So correct option will be option B. Question number 27. Two soft iron pins are suspended from south pole of a bar magnet. Which diagram shows how the pins are deflected? When we will suspend these pins with the south pole of the magnet, north pole will be developed on this end of the pins, and on the other end south poles will be developed. So in all the cases, here on this end of the pin north pole will be developed, and on the other end in all the cases south pole will be developed. We have studied that opposite poles attract each other and like poles repel each other. Since here in all the cases we have like poles, we have south pole, so south pole will repel each other. When it will be repelled, the correct position will be as shown in option C. When it will be repelled, it will move away from each other. Here we are looking, it is coming closer to each other. If one is south, other is north, then they will come close to each other. If they are same, then they will not come close to each other, they will be repelled. Here it is shown, it is neither attracted nor repelled. But when we keep a magnet with two same poles, it will be repelled, and when we will keep opposite poles, it will be attracted. So it is also not a possible option. In D, it is observed that both the poles are attracted, that is also incorrect. So the only correct option is shown in option C. Like poles repel each other, so they will move away from each other. So correct option will be option C. Question number 28. A student uses three small plotting compasses to investigate the magnetic field around a bar magnet. Which diagram shows the directions in each of the compass needle point? Lines of force start from north pole and it moves toward the south pole. If we check option A, we are looking lines of force is starting from north pole and it is coming toward the south pole. Again here, if we check this one, we are looking lines of force are moving like this. It seems to be coming from this north pole. So it may be our correct option. But we first check other options also. In option B, we are looking lines of force is directed towards the north pole and it is moving away from the south pole. So it is incorrect because lines of force start from north pole and it moves towards the south pole. In C, we are looking that in both the cases for north pole and for south pole, lines of force are directed towards the poles. In North Pole it is directed towards the pole, and also in South Pole it is directed towards the pole, so this one is also incorrect. Here we are looking that from the North Pole lines of force is moving away, and also from the South Pole it is moving away. In a bar magnet, lines of force move toward the South Pole, not move away from the South Pole. So this one is also incorrect. Correct option is only option A. Lines of force start from North Pole and it moves towards the South Pole. Question number 29. What is an electric current in a metal wire? Option A, a flow of electrons. Option B, a flow of neutrons. Option C, a flow of nucleons. Option D, a flow of protons. In a metallic wire, electrical current is produced because of flow of free electrons. So here the current is because of flow of electrons, that is given in option A. So correct option will be option A. Question number 30. Four wires are made of the same metal. Which wire has the greatest resistance? Resistance is directly proportional to length of the wire and inversely proportional to cross-sectional area. Now cross-sectional area depends on diameter. So in other words we can say resistance is directly proportional to length of the wire and inversely proportional to diameter of the wire. Now we check the options. Option A, a 100 centimeter long wire with a diameter of 3 millimeter. Option B, a 100 centimeter long wire with a diameter of 6 millimeter. Option C, a 10 centimeter long wire with a diameter of 3 millimeter. Option D, a 10 centimeter long wire with a diameter of 6 millimeter. In A and B we are looking that length of the wire is 100 centimeter. In C and D it is 10 centimeter. And it is discussed that resistance depends on length of the wire. It increases with the increase in length. Since here length is more in A and B as compared to C and D, so our possible option will be A and B. Now second thing, it is discussed that with the increase in diameter resistance will be decreased, and with the decrease in diameter resistance will be increased. So resistance will be more where the diameter is less. If we check this option A and option B, in option A diameter is 3 millimeter and in option B diameter is 6 millimeter. Since in B diameter is more as compared to A, so resistance will be maximum, resistance will be greatest in option A, where we have a 100 centimeter long wire and its diameter is 3 millimeter. So here correct option will be option A. Question 31. A student uses 4 ammeters P, Q, R and S to measure the current in different parts of the circuit shown. Which two ammeters read the largest current? Here we have 4 ammeters P, Q, R and S. Here the ammeter R will measure the current that is passing through this resistor only, whereas the ammeter S will measure the current that is passing through this resistor only. Whereas the ammeter P and the ammeter Q can measure the current of the whole circuit, and the current passing through the whole circuit will be definitely more than the current that is passing through these resistors individually. So the largest current will be measured by the ammeter P and ammeter Q. Now ammeter P and Q is given in option A, so correct option will be option A. Question number 32. A circuit X is set up with two identical lamps. Circuit Y is then set up changing the options of the meters. It is circuit X, it is circuit Y. In circuit X, the ammeter is connected here. In circuit Y, ammeter is connected here. In circuit X, voltmeter is connected with this lamp, and in circuit Y, voltmeter is connected with this lamp. On which meters do the readings change? Here this ammeter will measure the current for the whole circuit. Also here this ammeter will measure the current for the whole circuit. So the value of the ammeter in both the cases will remain same. Now what about the voltmeter reading? This voltmeter is connected with this lamp, so this voltmeter will measure the voltage across this lamp. and here the voltmeter will measure the voltage across this length. But here it is given both the lengths are identical. Since both the lengths are identical, so whatever be the voltage measured here, the same voltage will also be in this length. So neither there will be any change in the ammeter reading nor there will be any change in the voltmeter reading. Both current and voltage will remain same. Now we check the option. In option A, both the ammeters and the voltmeter. B, the ammeter only. C, the voltmeter only. D, neither the ammeter nor the voltmeter. Here our correct option is option D. There is neither the change in the ammeter reading nor in the voltmeter reading. Question number 33. An electrical appliance is powered from a mains supply. The appliance normally uses a current of 3 ampere, but the current briefly rises to 4 ampere at the instant the appliance is switched on. The cable in the appliance is designed for the current up to 6 ampere. A fuse is used to protect the circuit. What should be the reading of the fuse? Reading of the fuse should be just above the amount of current that is required by that appliance. Since the appliance is drawing a current of 3 ampere, so the rating of the fuse should be just above 3 ampere. Now if we check the option, in option A it is 1 ampere, in B it is 3 ampere, in C it is 5 ampere, in D it is 13 ampere. Here the reading should be just above 3 ampere. Just above 3 ampere means here the closest value is 5 ampere. So our correct option will be option C. Here we will use the fuse of rating 5 ampere. So correct option is option C. Question number 34. An electromagnet is positioned close to a coil of wire. The electromagnet is switched on, remains on for a short time and then switched off. Three statements about the pointer on the galvanometer during this sequence are given. Number 1. The pointer kicks to one side as the electromagnet is switched on. Yes, it is correct. When we will switch on the circuit, because of the induction, EMF will be induced in the coil and this needle will be deflected on one side. So 1 is correct. 2. The pointer records a steady non-zero value while the electromagnet remains switched on. When the electromagnet remains switched on, then there will be no change in flux. When there will be no change in flux, then there will be no induced EMF and there will be no deflection in the needle. So 2 is incorrect. 3. The pointer kicks to the other side as the electromagnet is switched off. Yes, it is correct. So here 1 and 3 are correct. 1 and 3 only is given in option B. So correct option, option B. Question number 35. A transformer is needed to convert a supply of 240 volt AC into 4800 volt AC. Which pair of coils would be suitable for this transformer? Here we have a transformer. In this transformer, it is primary side, it is secondary side. Here it is given NP. NP means number of turns on the primary side. Here it is given NS. NS means number of turns on the secondary side. So here the voltage that is given 240 volt, it will be voltage on the primary side and it is represented as VP. And here the voltage 4800 volt will be voltage on the secondary side and it is represented by Vs. So it is secondary voltage, it is primary voltage, it is the number of turns on the primary side, it is number of turns on the secondary side. And in the topic of transformer, we have studied a relation Vs over Vp is equal to Ns over Np. So what we have to do here, first we have to calculate the ratio Vs over Vp. So Vs over Vp will be equal to 4800 divided by 240, it will be equal to 20. So the ratio of the voltage on the secondary side and on the primary side is 20. And this ratio 20 should be equal to the ratio number of turns on the secondary side divided by number of turns on the primary side. So here what we have to do, we have to calculate the ratio of number of turns on secondary side and on primary side. Means here we have to calculate the value of ns over np, and we have to find out where the value is equal to 20. Now we will check the options. It is number of turns on the primary side, it is number of turns on the secondary side. Now for the option A, number of turns on the secondary side is 1000, on the primary side it is 50. So when we will divide 1000 by 50, we will get 20. Here the ratio in between the voltage on the secondary side and primary side is 20, and also here we are looking that the ratio in between the number of turns on the secondary side and primary side is also equal to 20. So our correct option will be option A. In other cases, in B, if we will divide 48,000 by 240, we will get 200. In C, if we will divide 24 by 480, we will get 0.05. And when we will divide 100 by 2000, we will get 0.05. So here the correct value, the correct ratio we found only in option A. So correct option will be option A. Question number 37. The diagram shows a current carrying wire with an arrow in the direction of the current, which diagram shows the magnetic field produced by the current. Here we have four options A, B, C and D. We have to find out the magnetic field produced by the current. To find out magnetic field by the current, what we have to do? We have to hold the wire in our right hand. Now direction of the thumb represent the direction of electrical current, and curling of the finger represent the direction of magnetic field. Now if we check option A, B, C and D, the only possible option is option B. Here this arrow, it represents wire, and when we will hold this wire in our right hand, the direction of the thumb will represent the direction of electrical current, and curling of our finger will represent the direction of magnetic field. So here our correct option will be option B. Question number 37. Which statement is correct for the nucleus of any atom? Option A, the nucleus contains electron, neutron and proton. No, it is incorrect. In nucleus we have only protons and neutrons, not electrons. So A is incorrect. B, the nucleus contains the same number of protons as neutron. No, it is also incorrect. In nucleus, number of protons and number of neutrons may be same or may be different. So B is also incorrect. Option C, the nucleus has a total charge of 0. It is also incorrect because in a nucleus we have proton and neutron. Protons are positively charged and neutrons are neutral. So in a nucleus we have positive charges. So this statement is also incorrect. Option D, the nucleus is very small compared with the size of the atom. Yes, it is correct. If we compare the size of the atom, the size of the nucleus, that is central part of the atom, is very small. So here correct option will be option D. Question number 38. The nucleus of an atom X is represented by the notation shown. How many protons and how many neutrons are in the nucleus? This Q, it represents proton number, and this P, it represents nucleon number. What is meant by proton number? Proton number means number of proton, and nucleon number means sum of proton and neutron. Now we check the options. Here we have two columns. In the first column, number of protons is given. In the second column, number of neutrons is given. Now here this Q represents number of protons. It is called proton number and it represents number of protons. So number of proton is represented by Q. Q is given in C and D, so possible option will be C and D. This P is number of nucleon. Number of nucleon means sum of proton and neutron. If we have to find out number of neutron, then what we have to do? We have to subtract this number of proton. We have to subtract this Q from nucleon number, means from P. So number of neutron will be equal to P minus Q. P minus Q is given in option D. So our correct option will be option D. Number of proton is represented by Q and number of neutron will be equal to P minus Q. Question number 39. A radiation detector records a low reading even when no radioactive source is close. This is due to background radiation. What does not contribute to this background radiation? Option A, rocks on Earth. Option B, cosmic rays from the sun. Option C, satellite TV signals. Option D, waves from nuclear power station. These background radiations may be from the rocks on the Earth, it may be from the cosmic rays, and also it may be from the waves from nuclear power station, but it cannot be from satellite TV signals. So our correct option will be option C. In satellite TV signals, we don't have background radiations. Question number 40. The graph shows the radioactive decay curve of a substance. What is the half-life of this substance? What is meant by half-life? Half-life means time taken by a radioactive substance to be half of its initial numbers. Now initial number of atoms, here it is given 1000 and we have to find half-life. From the graph it is clear that for the number of atoms to be changed from 1000 to 500, the time taken will be equal to 5 years. So here half-life will be 5 years. And 5 years is given in option B. So correct option will be option B. Okay, now we have completed all the questions from paper 0625, paper 1 variant 1 of October-November 2020. Thank you very much.